So here's my first question for you. What is emotional intelligence? What is it?
Oh, that's a really good one because I think the easiest way to describe emotional intelligence is understanding your own emotions so that you can understand others. And I know that
Hmm.
there are a lot of academic descriptions, but for me, if you don't understand your own emotions or what you're going through, how can you really understand others? So I think it's an exercise in mindfulness around thoughts, feelings, and the research shows that when we know that about ourselves, we have lower incidences of mental health issues. And I can say that's true for myself.
So I want to ask you, based upon just that answer, so being mindful, having awareness for ourselves, that all sounds great on a personal level. I'm
Mhm.
leading a large organization. How does this emotional intelligence thing benefit my organization?
So that's the beautiful thing. When you have people who are aware of their own feelings, their own ideas, their decisions, their behaviors, then you have an organization where you have more creativity, where you have less conflict. And by conflict, I destructive conflict, because there can be positive conflict as well. But you have more people meeting deadlines, you have more camaraderie, you have more profitability. Studies show that when a person or an organization invests, for every dollar they invest in emotional intelligence, they get 6 to 8 back. Who wouldn't want that return?
Okay, that's an important writable moment right there. For every dollar you invest in your team for emotional intelligence, you're going to get $6 to $8 back. And it sounds like you're saying through productivity increases mostly.
It's productivity, it's reduced sick days, right? I don't know if you've ever had
Ah,
a leader where you just hated coming to work, or because the leader was how they were, they lacked that awareness. You ended up getting sick more because your body was working harder. Companies who work on this, they typically see lower sick days, they typically see lower health costs, they see higher engagement, less retention and turnover. So yeah, all the reasons, Glenn, all the reasons.
there's a lot of reasons why people should do that. When we're talking about, it seems like to me it's a complicated subject to train. Would you agree with that?
I would say the opposite. And I would say because everybody has emotions, then everybody knows their themselves better than anyone else. And because we know what happiness is, because we know what sadness is, we know what frustration, resentment, all the feels, we know what it's like having conflict with people. It's a very normal part of our life. Therefore, everyone who is in this training or in this coaching, they have their own filter, if you will, of expertise. What we do is we ask questions to open that up and try to understand, okay, now that you see these patterns of behaviors, how is that affecting your environment? And are you getting the results you want? Because oftentimes we're not really aware.
Okay. Are we training people then? How? Okay, if you're training me and I'm part of an organization, maybe I'm a mid-level manager. How do you train me to start to become aware of these emotions that I'm having and how to get them under control? Because I think most of the time we operate on automatic pilot.
Yes. And I think if we tell people, hey, you are doing this, you are being this way, it falls on deaf ears, right? So I see in my practice, in my company, the best way to do that is through data. Data is what makes people understand things that seem maybe not that understandable. So when we look at behaviors, and here at Blue Light Leadership, what we do is we look at 42 specific behaviors, and we use an assessment that is globally tested. So it's not just US based, it's around the world, it's in different cultures. And we look at those 42 behaviors and we ask the people around you, because you can't I can't tell you, Glenn, how many times I meet people and they're like, oh, I'm really high EI. Like I have high EI. You can't
Yeah,
calibrate
yeah.
it just by yourself. You need to be in an environment where it can calibrate. So we look at assessments, we look at quantitative and qualitative data, and then we take it from there. And it's really upon the person to see which behaviors would create the best impact or the biggest impact.
Are we in danger there of dividing people out into categories so much that if I'm hiring, I'm going to hire this same category for all the entire company. I want everybody to use EI, for example, or SI, whatever it's going to be. Are we in danger of doing that?
Potentially. However, the best part, I think, is when we don't do that, we still hire people that we like or who are like us, right? We have our own biases and we have our own, the type of people, the way of working in which we like. If we're a fast paced person, we want people who are fast paced. And I think the best part about it is we need to have a mix of people. We need to have a mix of behaviors and skills, and we need to constantly be working on that together because it's not just going to happen automatically. But when you have people who are conscious of their behavior, think about this. If you're working with a group of people and they're really conscious about their behavior, how they're affecting people, how they're coming off, what a great place for growth, collaboration. That means, Glenn, you could tell me, hey, Diana, you did this and, it didn't really work for the client. Did you notice that? And I would feel safe to say, hey, I didn't notice that. And I'm sorry. Let's fix it and make it better. Those are the types of
Okay.
environments that have high EI.